Hi everyone! Thank you for picking up the STEAMkids kit from the Washington County Public Library. My name is Rhiannon and I'm going to guide you through this lesson and instructions on how to complete this super cool science experiment. I'm coming to you from my house to show you that you can do this super cool science experiment right from your home. So before we jump into the science experiment, let's learn about how it works. So today we're going to be doing a little bit of chemistry. Now, chemistry is the study of matter and energy and how the two of them interact. And the key part of our experiment today is a solution. Now, a solution in chemistry is something dissolved into something else. We see a ton of different solutions in our day-to-day lives. And one of the ones that comes to mind for me is a soda. So a soda is a solution of carbon dioxide gas that's dissolved into water. And there are other things in soda like colors and flavors and sugar as well. So we have a term for things that can dissolve or break down into other things. Those items are soluble. And water is the most common thing for solutions to be made out of. And there are many different things that are soluble in water. Some things that come to mind are soap and sugar and food coloring, and the one we're going to use today, salt. But there are some things that just don't dissolve in water. These things are called insoluble. So what are some things that you think of that are insoluble or don't dissolve in water? One of the things that comes to mind for me are bath toys, and especially lots of plastics. It would be really sad if our rubber ducky friend dissolved when you put him into the bath with you. So something else that's insoluble in water is glass. And that is why we use it to hold water. And did you know that not all solutions are liquids? Some solutions are solids like glass. Can you believe that? That glass is a solution too? It's pretty cool. All right. So we know that there are some things that dissolve into others, but how does it even work? So this works because water is made up of teeny tiny particles called molecules. And when you add in the larger particles or molecules of, say, sugar, and you stir them together, the sugar molecules will spread out evenly in between the water molecules, thus creating a solution. There are some other factors that make solutions either easier or more difficult to make, and one of those is temperature. Have you ever tried to stir sugar into cold water? It can take a lot of stirring for it to work. But if we heat up the water first, things like salt and sugar dissolve into the water much easier. But even things that are soluble in water, like salt, have their limits. So today we're going to be making a saturated solution. Can you say that? It's kind of a tongue twister. Saturated solution. So what does that mean? This means we're going to be adding as much salt as possible to our hot water to the point where it won't take any more. There's no more room for those salt molecules to fit in between the water molecules. And we can increase the amount of salt the water can hold by heating it. And then we're going to add a ton of salt to that hot water. Now, why would we want this? Because making a saturated solution means it becomes easier for the solution to come apart. As I mentioned before, you can speed up the dissolving of things into water by heating it. And hot water can hold way more salt than cold water can. But as the water cools, the salt is going to want to become crystals again. Yeah, did you know that? That salt actually forms crystals? Here's a picture of a salt crystal. Isn't it so pretty? And that is what we are trying to get to form today. So as the water cools down, the salt and water will come apart and we'll start to see salt crystals forming in the water. And that's exactly what we want. So Now that we know about solutions, we can get into our fun science experiment together. Now we're going to need an adult to help us with this experiment. Make sure to ask for help before starting. The items included in your kit are 2 pipe cleaners, a bamboo skewer, and you're going to have a baggie with a ton of salt in it. There are a few items that you are going to need that are not included in your kit that you're going to need from home. You are going to need some water, an adult to help you, a pot and a stove to heat the water on, and a spoon to stir the salt into the water, and a heat-safe cup. Today, I'm going to be using this glass beaker, for science reasons, but a coffee cup works really well for this experiment. And hot pads or oven mitts are also super helpful to prevent you from getting hurt by touching hot water. And there is one more thing you need to do this experiment, and that is time and patience. I know it can be really hard to wait for something super cool, but I promise it will be worth it. The end result of this experiment happens in about 24 to 48 hours or in 1 to 2 days. So the first thing we need are pipe cleaners. This is what we're going to use to make some pretty fall leaves. So I took my pipe cleaner and I bent it so it kind of looks like an oak leaf. You can try and bend yours to look like any leaf that you want. And now I'm going to attach my other pipe cleaner, the brown one, to make it look like the stem of the leaf. And we're going to use this to attach it to the bamboo skewer so it can hang down into our solution later on. So this is sort of what you're aiming for, a leaf with a long stem off the end. So now we're ready to start heating our water, but we don't want to heat up too much water because the more water you have, the more salt you're going to need. We want just as much as we need to fill up our cup. So, as I said, I'm using my fancy science beaker here today. So I'm only going to fill it up about halfway full. Need a little more water. There we go. Filling it about halfway full with water. And then this is what I'm going to pour into my pot. So we only heat the amount of water that we need. Now that I've added that water into our pot, we are going to turn our stove onto high and let it start heating until the water becomes boiling. So once the water is boiling, meaning it's making lots of bubbles and steam is coming off of, it's time to add the salt. Do this very carefully. I like to take the pot off of the stove first, then add the salt to the water. We are going to keep adding salt like this and stirring it until it looks like we can't add any more salt. We are just about there. Something that's really cool about salt water is the more salt you add to it, the cloudier the water becomes. We can really see that when we pour our saltwater solution very carefully into our cup. Please let your adult do this. All right, so the hardest part is now over. Now we're going to attach our pipe cleaner leaf to our bamboo skewer. I'm going to wrap the end of the stem around the skewer. I'm going to wrap it around a few times and leave it sticking up a bit so my leaf is hanging down. And you might want to guesstimate this. I think this looks like it's a little bit too long. So I'm going to wrap the leaf end around a few times, but you don't want it too short. You want your whole leaf to be submerged into the salt water. Unwrap this one more. All right. So we want to wrap it around the middle of the skewer so this can sit and balance across the top of our cup. All right. So now that we have the leaf placed into the water, the other hard part begins: waiting. So like I mentioned earlier in the lesson, hot water can hold way more salt than cold water can. So over time, as this water cools down, all that salt is going to form back into crystals. And the fuzzy little bits on our pipe cleaners are perfect spots for crystals to form. Additionally, the water will start to evaporate or turn into gas over time. We can help speed this up by placing the cup in a window. This lets the sun help turn the water into gas, which speeds up the salt forming into crystals. So now that we have this all set up, now we just have to wait. I'll see you all back here in a day to see how our experiment is going. Hi friends, I'm back today to show you the results of our salt crystal leaf science experiment. Now it's been about 2 days since I did this at my house, and after 2 days, I took it out this morning and I set it down on a towel to dry, and I've had even more salt crystals form since drying. So let's take a look and see how it is. Hoping that you can see pretty well. See if it'll focus on that. Yeah, you can see how many cool salt crystals have formed. I'm going to insert a clip here of a close-up of all the crystals that formed on here. And they are so sparkly and shiny, and it would look amazing as a really cool piece of fall decor as we move into the fall season. So I hope that you all enjoyed this really cool science project as part of our STEAMkids kit for September at the Washington County Public Library. Thank you all so much for watching, and I hope to see you again real soon. Bye!